back. Mike Joswiak. I'm going to be your instructor again for the day. Interpersonal communication and, in this case, speech class. Hi. Man, I tell you what, we are into the communication. There's my thermos. It's filled with coffee. That's why I get kind of jittery. Hi. We're into the communication process, and I'm super excited about that. What we're calling Chapter 2. All right. Here are the terms to know and love that we have talked about so far. All right. We've talked about the sender. We've defined the sender. We've talked about the receiver, the getter of the message. We've defined that too. We've talked about the actual term message. Yay! Channel of transmission. Don't forget the way to define that. We've talked about encoding. We've talked about decoding. We've talked just briefly, man, about all those. We've also talked about external noise. You see the arrows on that diagram earlier? External noise, it just cuts through the whole process. It does. It's too loud to send the message. Internal noise, however, lots of asterisks up there. Again, the arrow that cuts through the whole process. Internal noise. You're daydreaming or drifting away or zoning out. Your nemesis. Remember, shorter attention span than a goldfish? Oh, remember? Okay. All right. We've talked about those terms. And now, the last terms. Yay! All right, so hang on for this ride. Take a look. Take a look now. I'm going to drop in the magic whiteboard now. There is still one more way Tony can screw this up. You know, all of the terms in red are problems. Tony is trying to axe Tina to the prom. I got to turn that noise off. I'm so sorry. External noise? Think about it. Okay, listen. Tony's trying to ask Tina to the prom. That's his message. I sure would like it if you go to the prom with me. Okay? She's the receiver. He's the sender. Channel of transmission. Verbal face-to-face. He's picked 8th grade English as his code. She can decode that. Yay! He's found a quiet place, right? He's going to get her attention. There's no internal... Okay, listen. Tony can still screw this up. Look way down in the bottom corner of the model. Look, we'll drop it in. See way down there? The word context. Context equals the time and the place and the social rules of that place. What? Yeah. See that dotted line that goes around the entire... Wow, this is fun. That dotted line that goes around the whole model on the whiteboard. That dotted line indicates that this conversation or the communication does not happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen in some laboratory somewhere. It happens in a time and a place, a setting, if you will. And that setting has social rules attached to it. All right? We'll get to that. But honestly, Tony has got to take this into consideration. I'll just say it really simply. There could be a right place and a wrong place to ask her to the prom. Tony, there could be a right time and a wrong time to ask her to the prom. And if you found the right place, but you break the social rules of that place, oh my gosh, disaster. All right. Once again, the definition for context is the time, the place, and the social rules of the place. We all know what time means. It's like it's 8 o'clock in the morning, or it's noon, or it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Okay? We all know what place means. The food court at the Mall of America, Mr. Joswiak's classroom, 124, Lakeville North High School is a place, right? Ipava Avenue at the intersection of Ipava and 50. That's a specific place. Ames Arena is a place. All right? uh, maybe some of you have parks or places of worship that you go to. All right, places. Oh, you talk about external noise. Oh, mammy. Okay. Places. Okay. Those are easy. Time and place, easy peasy. We get it. But now, listen. Every one of those places has its own social rules. It's a true story. Every one of its places has its own social rules. Like, for instance, what are the social rules of Lakeville North High School? What are the social rules of Lakeville North High School? Okay, well, no hats, no smoking, no swearing in the classrooms. There are 100 of them. 100 of them. Shing, no weapons. I'll put that away. Okay, all right. There are 100 social rules of this institution. All right, and man, I tell you what, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. Like I said before, you can't come in wearing your Miller Lite shirts. You know, you can't. It's against the social rules or the norms of this place. Okay. All right. Now, let's go back to the postulation of the big question: will you go to the prom with me? Again, Tony's the sender. He's got a message. I want to go to the prom with you. Tina's the receiver. Now, how can Tony screw this whole thing up? How can he screw this whole thing up just in the context? Well, come on. Come on. Think with me now. Think. Where would be a terrible, terrible place for Tony to ask Tina to the prom? A terrible place. Okay? Think. Think. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tony, do not follow her in to the woman's bathroom. Tony, don't. Okay? The banging on doors, looking under the stalls. Hey, Tina! Hey, oh, sorry. Hey, oh, hey, Tina! You know? She's not going to the prom with you. She's not. Okay? That would be a horrible place. You know? Tony, do not go into that funeral home at her grandfather's wedding. Don't do wedding. Oh my God! Don't go into the funeral home at her grandfather's funeral. Do not do that. Do not like sneak up behind her. Say, hey. I'll have those removed. Do not sneak up behind her at Grandpa's funeral. What a terrible place, Tony. Okay, man, don't. Let's talk about time and place like together. Okay, time and place. Where could you screw this up? Tony's. Okay, listen. 3 o'clock in the morning, but you're under her bed. You snuck into her house, and now you're under her. Tina. Tony, she ain't going to the prom with you. Okay, that's weird, dude. It's the wrong place and the wrong time. All right, 3 o'clock in the morning is not good for, well, it's good for stuff, but it might not be good for asking her to the prom from under her bed. Okay, all right. So, oh man, there's terrible times. There's terrible times. And there's terrible places. You know, she's in the middle of a math test. Yummy. Not really. She's in the middle of the ACT test. Tony, don't. And here's one that you might not know about, Tony's. Hey, listen, Tina's out there. Tina's. Just don't pay any attention to me right now. I'm just talking to the guys. Guys, there might be something you don't know. Don't ever do this. Never if Tina is in the middle of the commons and she has all of her girlfriends like in a circle, she has all of her girlfriends in a circle and they're all talking, Tony, do not go into that sacred circle. Tony, do not bust in there. They will eat you alive. Okay? Don't. Okay? You wait. You stalk her to her next classroom. No, don't. Sorry. Stalking. All right. Let's talk about breaking the social rules. Let's talk about the social rules of the institution. Okay? Man, I tell you what. Let's go to your temple or your synagogue or your church. There are social rules in any environment, but there's some biggies in our houses, if you will, of worship. Let's pretend you're in one of these mega churches here in Lakeville, and Tina is in like the first pew, because that's her family. They're the front rowers. Tony is like 5 pews behind Tina. Social rules. Think about the social rules of that environment. Let's pretend the priest or pastor or whoever's in charge, she gets up behind the pulpit and he says, the gospel according to Tony or Timmy or Tom. And he starts in on the gospel. Let's pretend, he's preaching. And Tony gets up on the pew. Tony stands up in the middle of church. And he starts screaming, "Hey, Tina! Hey, it's me, Tony, from Spanish class. Hey, man, this guy's boring, isn't he? Hey, do you want to go to prom with me? Tony, she's not going to prom with you. She's like sneaking down on. She wants to hide. She is not going to prom with you. You have broken the social rules of that environment. Tony, seriously. And there are social rules in every environment. Like I said, Lakeville North High School. Now, people question me about this all the time. They question me about this all the time. What about the park? Or, Joswiak, you like to go to the Boundary Waters. The Boundary Waters, middle of the wilderness. There are no social rules. No, yes, there are. Yes, there are. You can only paddle 4 boats in any group. You can only paddle 4 boats now. Boots. Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of boots, one of the social rules is leave only footprints. You can't throw your trash around. You can't bring in bottles. There's only 4 boats. That's really what I was going to say. Allowed. You can only camp at campsites designated that with a dot on the map, but they have to have a latrine and a cook grate, or you cannot camp there, and so on and so on. Every place has its own social rules. Your house has its own social rules. Your places of worship, your work certainly has its social rules. Tony, you break any of those, she ain't going to the prom. All right. Context, time, place, social rules. Okay, Tony, you got to be cautious of this and careful of this. And then feedback happens. Feedback happens. Here's the definition of feedback. Feedback is the reply back from the receiver to the sender. The receiver replies to the sender. All right, that's simple. Look at the way the arrow moves on the diagram for feedback, the black arrow. Feedback, the receiver's reply. Simple. I mean, in this case, Tina going to say yes or Tina going to say no. That's going to be feedback. Or she's going to say what my girlfriend's always said, "Oh, give me a day to think about it," which really means she's waiting for Bob to ask her. Okay? Okay. All right, listen. Feedback. The receiver's reply to the sender's message. All right, I'm excited. Notice that it's in black. Here's why. Feedback happens. Feedback happens. It does. If Tina goes like this, it's feedback. If she says, "No way!" No, it's feedback. I'm flashing back to my 12th grade in high school. I'm sorry. Listen, it's feedback. Like I said, if she says, "Give me a day to think about it," it's feedback. If she falls over like, it's feedback. All right, feedback happens. Okay? All right. There. 10 terms to know and love. All right. Here we go. Let's see if they're going to the prom. God, I sure hope so, because I need them all semester long. Eventually, they have to be soulmates. Listen, let's see if we can get them to the prom. Here we go. Tony is the sender. He owns the message. He needs to transport it or ship it to the receiver, Tina, who's the getter of the message. The message, or the thing that Tony wants Tina to know and understand, is, "I want to go to the prom with you." All right, here we go. He picks a channel of transmission that is fail-safe. He picks verbal face-to-face. He's going to walk up to her. But first, he's got to think about this. How to encode. No, not Spanish, Tony. She doesn't understand it. He thinks about the receiver's ability to decode or deconstruct his code. So he encodes or picks a code called 8th grade English and puts his message into that code. "I want to go to the prom with you. Do you want to go to the prom with me?" 8th grade English. Tina has the ability to decipher that. Once again, the channel of transmission is verbal face-to-face. But man, Tony's got to find a quiet place. He's got to find a quiet place. So there's no external noise, the physical noise inside the environment. He also has to be extremely cautious that there is no internal noise, raging internal noise in Tina's head. He has to get her attention and keep it, okay? And he's got to put it all in context. He's got to find a time. He's got to find the perfect place. He's got to find the place. So you know what Tony does? Tony takes her to one of my favorite restaurants. He does. He takes her to the White Castle up in West St. Paul, Minnesota. And he arranges this with the manager. He lays down a tablecloth and he puts up candles, but not candles where you gotta light them, because that would break the social rules. No fire in the restaurant, but they're electric and they flicker and they're really fun. He sets up candles and he arranges this with the manager. He's going to play soft music under the table, some classical violin. Tony, what a romantic. Breaking none of the social rules. At the White Castle, Tony lifts her chin. He lifts her chin, and he says, "Tina, I have something to ask you." Whoa! He has got her attention, and he knows it. It's quiet. There's soft music. He lifts her chin, and in that moment, he asks her to go to the prom. Tina, feedback. Tina clears the whiteys off the table and pushes the candles, everything. She army crawls across the table. She grabs him by the shirt collar and she kisses him and says, "Oh my God, Tony, I've been waiting for you to ask. Yes, I'll go to the prom with you." Tony, ha ha ha, cha-ching, hey, hey, way to go, high five. All right, they're going to the prom. 10 terms to know and love. 10 terms, many of them written in red. There are so many places it can break down. But now that you know, there are some things we can do to fix it. Okay? All right. Yeah.